In an ideal world, I would start my morning with writing every single day. Between writing and a cup of tea, I've found over the years that nothing else quite sets me up for the day in the same way. Perhaps the only good thing about lockdown is that it has allowed me to get a little bit closer to this perfect routine than I've been able to achieve over the last few years. So whilst my day does start with getting my toddler out of bed, getting her ready for the day, getting her breakfast, usually the next thing I manage after those things is writing. I think it's important to note though that I am not sitting down at my desk to spend 2 or 3 hours at the keyboard. That is just not practical for me right now, and it probably isn't going to be for several years yet. But starting the day with any writing is valuable, and I found this from experience. So as soon as physically possible every morning, I like to sit down at my desk with my cup of tea and start writing. If I get more than 20 minutes to myself, I am doing very well. But even 10 or 20 minutes can go a long way. Right now, I am spending that time in editing. This is one of the biggest things that has changed in my writing routine over the last 6 months. I've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years drafting, and I've reached the point where I have multiple finished first drafts that need editing ready for publication. It's rare for me to be quite so far ahead with drafting, but it does mean that for the foreseeable future, all my main projects are going to be editing ones. And even if I'm only going to get 20 minutes to work on them, I do like to first of all sit down and work on the project that is most pressing. And I should also say that I don't spend this morning writing time shut up in an office somewhere in blessed quiet. I am usually working with a toddler running around behind me, bringing me soft toys and showing me what she's doing. I know there are definitely writers out there who are cringing at the very thought of having to work with so many distractions. But to be honest, it's just a case of needs must. I don't have a quiet writing space in my current living situation, so I have just trained myself to write through whatever is going on around me. After writing, the rest of the morning is family time. If at all possible, we always try to get out for a walk. This is a little bit more difficult in winter, certainly. A lot of our weather here at this time of year is very wet and often quite stormy. It is not particularly pleasant weather for walking, particularly with a toddler in tow. But at the same time, we are very fortunate to live in such a beautiful part of the country. So if the weather is even slightly amenable, we do try and get outside. And this isn't just a way of distracting a small child. Being outside is absolutely integral to my creative process. It's a great time for me to brainstorm, and sometimes it's also just a really good time not to think at all. Phones go away, there are no screens to look at. I can just enjoy the outdoors and the world turning around me. And whatever current anxieties and worries I might have, they tend to just melt away. By early afternoon, my daughter is usually ready for her nap. If you have ever been a parent or looked after a small child, you will know how precious this time of the day is. I am always rushing to do work during nap time. Given my current schedule, this is more editing time. Like I said, I have got a lot of editing to get through, and I'm typically very slow at editing books. It takes me a lot longer than drafting does. However, I've got to be honest, I tend to not get as much work done in the early afternoon as I would like. This is definitely the time of day when my own energy dips. I am much more of a morning person. So once I've tried to do a little bit of editing, I usually then move on to something else. This is my prime admin time. Maybe I will be formatting ebooks or updating my website or getting posts ready for social media. All of these things are very important to a modern author. There are very few writers who can get away without doing any platform building at all. But this is lower intensity work for me, so the early afternoon is the perfect time for me to focus on it. And if my daughter is having a particularly long nap, this is also when I tend to do a lot of my outlining and brainstorming by hand. I've said in the past that I think my brain just works differently when I'm writing by hand. So this is how I do most of my idea forming and outlining. The afternoon, of course, is more family time. What I personally get done in the afternoon depends an awful lot on what my daughter wants to do. If she's happy to play quietly for a bit, this tends to be my main reading time. I certainly don't read as many books as I used to, but I do fit in a few pages here and there whenever I can. Now, the evenings are where my biggest writing routine changes have recently appeared. NaNoWriMo this year taught me that working on multiple projects is definitely the key to my creative happiness, and I've been making the most of that recently. We've talked a lot about editing so far, but the evenings are my drafting time. My daughter usually has a bit of a wind down period in the evening before bed. She will often watch some of her favourite TV programmes, and this is when I write. For a while, I used this evening writing time to work on side projects, things that I didn't intend to publish anytime soon. Maybe they were just a bit of fun and a kind of palette cleanser from what I was working on during the day. But currently, I'm actually using this drafting time to work on main projects that I intend to publish in the next year or two. NaNoWriMo taught me that I'm actually much better at drafting in the evenings than I'd previously thought. I've actually started building this evening writing time into my schedules when I'm planning how long it's going to take me to finish books. And finally, at the end of the day, after my daughter has gone to bed, it is time for a little bit of relaxation. For the first couple of years of my daughter's life, I instantly got down to my work the moment she went to bed. But over the last 6 months, as I've managed to integrate more writing time into my day, I haven't been doing this as much. The only work I tend to do in the evenings now is either a little bit of outlining or video editing. Instead, I've been making time to catch up on some TV and films with my partner, or alternatively, the evenings are just for reading and catching up on YouTube videos. I think the biggest thing that struck me while I was planning this video is that I don't actually spend huge blocks of time during the day writing. You don't need hours at a stretch to write and finish books. Yes, I would absolutely love to have a few days a week when all I got to do was write, but that's not practical for me right now. And this year has very much been an exercise in making the best of what I have. So thank you for watching, and I would love it if you shared some of your own writing routine or your productivity tips in the comments below. Keep writing, everyone, and I'll see you next time.